Hi guys, Claudia Boleyn here. This is like a quick video, but I'm really disappointed this morning and kind of upset in a little way. Like, it's probably not a big deal, but it kind of feels like it is. How do I get into this? Basically, I'm on Twitter, you might know this. I am at Claudia Boleyn on Twitter if you want to contact me on there or be my friend or whatever. And I follow a lot of famous people, as you do on Twitter, and I follow JK Rowling because she is one of my favourite writers, and she really has changed my life in a really positive way through the Harry Potter series. I really feel like she's genuinely changed my life, and I really appreciate her for that. We don't see eye to eye on politics at the moment. She's very anti-Jeremy Corbyn. Fair enough. Do I think it's wise to be doing that when it's May versus Corbyn? No. Anyway, this is not a politics video. She has every right to that. It's her account, and I do respect her for having a political voice, even if it's not one that I appreciate and I think isn't going to help. But that's not my issue. I was looking through my Twitter feed this morning, and I kind of saw this horrible tweet from JK Rowling, which was basically, it was anti-Trump, which is fair enough. I'm very anti-Trump myself. But it was implying that because Trump is a horrible person, he must be mentally ill or have a personality disorder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these tweets on the screen so you can see them. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I don't know, it felt like a punch in the gut. Maybe that is just an overreaction, but I don't know, when one of your favourite authors does something like this, it kind of makes you feel like, oh, oh, the pain. So it started out with a tweet from JK Rowling saying, "I wonder whether Trump talks to Trump's self in the third Trump's person when Trump's alone." Fair enough. Taking the piss out of Donald Trump. Who wouldn't? And then someone else replied by saying, "It's a sign of mental illness, people. Hashtag diagnose Trump. Hashtag unqualified." I hate it. I hate that thing where people think that we have to diagnose Trump. I'm going to get into that later, but you would have thought someone like JK Rowling would not be behind the whole, oh, Trump is bad, therefore he must be mentally ill, especially as JK Rowling is someone who's spoken about her struggles with depression before. So instead of ignoring this, JK Rowling, like, retweets it, like, agreeing with it, and puts this tweet, which killed me: "A Trump personality disorder." That's painful. I have a personality disorder. You probably know I have borderline personality disorder, and it doesn't make me a bad person. I don't think that a person having a personality disorder or having a mental illness has any real bearing on their politics. I mean, it's ridiculous. This tweet has 2.2k likes on it at the moment. And that's what upsets me, because JK Rowling's got 10 million followers, 10.3 million followers it says here. That's a lot of followers. And about 2,000 people this morning have joined her in thinking it's hilarious or some sort of great observation to think, oh, Trump's a bad person, we don't like Trump, therefore, oh, he must have a personality disorder. There's so much stigma already towards people with personality disorders of different types. And I remember when I was coming up to be diagnosed, it was really dodgy at the time. It was complicated because my actual people working with me were saying, yes, it looks like you have this, but you don't want to tell people much about it. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because there is a stigma towards it still. People still don't understand. There are some people even within the mental health community that don't get it yet. It hasn't got to that point. The stigma's that bad. So you might want to keep it quiet. So for a long time I did keep it quiet. And I felt more confident in this last year to come out and say it, that I have borderline personality disorder, because I'm not ashamed. And I know that there is a stigma towards it, but that's not down to people with the disorder. It's just down to people not understanding. And I feel like if more people talk about it, then maybe people might start to understand. And I've had a lovely response from other people with BPD to the videos I've made, because it does make you feel less alone and less like a monster, because having a personality disorder doesn't make you a bad person or a monster, it's just a personality disorder. So this diagnosing Donald Trump thing just makes me really angry, really, because it's like people think, oh, the reason he's a horrible person, it can't just be because he's a horrible man himself, just that has some horrible political views. It has to be because there's something wrong with him. It has to be because he's got mental health issues. That's such a horrible, damaging thing. It's like when someone commits some sort of crime in the media. I should say, when a white person commits a crime in the media, it's usually put down to mental illness. And yes, sometimes people who commit crimes do suffer with mental illness, but the huge, emphasis on the mental illness part is very dangerous, because it's not the mental illness that would make the person hurt someone. In the absolute majority of cases, mentally ill people are actually more at risk of abuse and being hurt by other people. I'm not sure the exact statistic, but that's definitely a fact. Now, even if Donald Trump does have a personality disorder, I'm not going to diagnose him. It's not my place. It's no one's place to diagnose him, and it's certainly not someone's place to diagnose him, to attempt to diagnose him as some sort of checkmate. But if he does have a personality disorder, it wouldn't be the personality disorder that was making him a bad person. It wouldn't be the personality disorder that was making him have these horrible political views and that was making him do these things. So it's sort of irrelevant, and it makes me really upset. Now, again, talking about JK's influence and how this can affect people, there are a lot of young people that follow JK Rowling. She means a lot to our generation, she really does. I don't see eye to eye with her on politics, and yeah, I kind of think her anti-Corbyn stuff, that's not my cup of tea, but I respect her and I follow her because she's played a huge part in my childhood. Like, I'm just going to show you right now. I'm wearing a Ravenclaw t-shirt right now. I love Harry Potter. So many young people follow JK Rowling and see her as wise and intelligent, and she is intelligent. But she has this massive platform, and it just kind of upsets me that she doesn't think about what she's doing here. And I don't mean to make this about JK Rowling herself. I mean, it's more about the fact that lots of people think it's okay to associate people who they don't like with mental illness as if it's some sort of checkmate, and it's totally wrong. Now, some people are saying that, oh, it's okay for JK Rowling to do that because she's had depression in the past. Well, no. Depression and personality disorders are very different. You can have both. I happen, unlucky me, I do have both. I do have depression and a personality disorder, but they're very different things. And there's a lot more stigma towards those with personality disorders than there is towards those with depression at the moment. They're on very different levels right now when it comes to understanding, so that doesn't really make much sense as a point. Personality disorders can be so destructive to a person's life that they can lead to suicide. I mean, there's a very high suicide rate among people with BPD. I think the statistic is 1 in 10. That's exceptionally high, and I firmly believe that a lot of that is less to do with the actual disorder itself, but society's opinion on the disorder and the stigma. I feel like if BPD was more understood and people with it didn't feel so alone and they weren't made to feel like monsters or like what they had to say was suddenly invalid, I feel like there would be less suicide. Another thing I wanted to point out here is that a lot of people with personality disorders, we don't know quite how personality disorders are formed or what causes them, but we do know that a lot of people with personality disorders have suffered extreme trauma or abuse in childhood. So I feel like a lot of these people will have turned to JK Rowling and her books and will admire her on this front because, I mean, aren't her books essentially about a little boy who has a traumatic and abusive childhood and suffers that stigma and people thinking he's an attention seeker and he's going through all this stress and pressure, and we see it from his point of view and he's very relatable on that front. We get to see Harry come out the other side. We see him making those firm friends who accept him for who he is. We see him going on to have a family of his own, and it's really uplifting. And I think to people who have personality disorders, who've suffered some sort of, childhood trauma or abuse, I think the Harry Potter books are really relatable because of that. I feel like JK Rowling's becoming one of the villains of her own books here because it's sad. It's like in Order of the Phoenix when nobody believes that Harry's telling the truth about Voldemort coming back, and you know how people in the media are saying that, oh, he's attention seeking and, oh, you can't trust what he says, oh, he's probably mad, there's something wrong with the boy, oh, he's off with Dumbledore, he's crazy. It feels like that, and it's so strange that the woman who wrote that story and taught us to empathise with Harry in that situation and think, well, no, this is a kid who's dealt with trauma and he's trying to get through, this is disgusting. It doesn't sit right with me that she's perpetuating that now. It just upsets me so much because I get a lot of online abuse because of having a personality disorder and because of talking about it. And I knew this would happen. I was told by my therapist, and it was a choice by me to disclose it because I knew for a long time that I would get this sort of backlash and people don't understand it. And that's why I was open more about my depression and anxiety, but I felt like it was much harder to come forward about having BPD, and actually the hardest thing I've ever done online was coming out with that and being open about it. I've actually been really pleased with the response, and even though there's been some real awfulness, the responses from other people with BPD have really made it worthwhile. But it just upsets me that there's this stigma towards BPD because we're not bad people, and it's ridiculous. My personality disorder means that I find life really tough, and I find that emotions are huge, and I fear abandonment, and it's so painful, and the suicide rate, as I've said, is so high with people with BPD because it's such a painful disorder to have, and it affects every day of your life, you know? It's always there, and it's something we deal with, and we don't need people like Trump lumped in with us for some sort of point-scoring joke. It's horrible, really, and it just upsets me a lot. I'm going to end the video now. I don't mean this as like some sort of call out against JK Rowling personally, it's just that that was what I saw on my feed this morning, and that's what sort of prompted me to make this video. Sorry, my neighbours are being a bit loud at the moment. I'm not like trying to get at her personally, but I wish she would think about her platform. I wish other people would, and I wish people would stop with this whole diagnosed Trump thing, because even if he has got a mental illness or a personality disorder, that's not what's making him the bad person, you know? Okay, I love you loads, and I'll see you really soon. Bye!